And alright, guys, welcome along to another episode of Martin's World. And today's 420 news. Welcome along, guys. Slightly late there, guys, and apologies for that. Just correcting a few spelling errors there in the description of the show. So, guys, welcome along anyway. You're watching 420 News. It's Monday, and nice one there to Sean for sharing the stream, and to everybody else out there who's taking the time to come along and tune into the show. Guys, just to remind you, if you want to support the show, support the fight for cannabis legalisation in Ireland, patreon.com/Martin's World, or also up above my head, martinsworld.ie. You can make a donation there in the form of Bitcoin. All the money will be used to establish a cannabis activist hub in Cork City once the bloody restrictions go away and we can start gathering to socialise again. But despite the restrictions there and stuff, guys, we can still go out and do a little bit of protesting, as I went and done yesterday. I don't know if you seen the video at all there yesterday, but I went out and I engaged in a little bit of civil disobedience there yesterday in Cork City, where I went along to the Anglesey Street Garda station, and I engaged in what is a protest. I handed in a little bit of cannabis, just less than a gram of CBG flower, actually cannabigerol flowers. So yeah, it was just a little bit of a civil disobedience protest. Not new to me. I've been there before. I've experienced this sort of thing where I went in, handed myself into the Gardaí for committing a crime. So it is definitely a thing that took a bit of balls. Like I almost bottled it yesterday morning. Like I was just like, oh, will I? Feck it, go on, Martin. Look, just do it. So like a bit of context in it. Like at the start of the year, I made a promise to myself that I'm going to engage in a form of protest just like this, at least once a month, every month, until cannabis is legalised, or until at least it's decriminalised, until it's no longer a criminal act just to possess cannabis or for growing it, So a simple little act like that, going down to the guard station, I'll just pop on over there. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. Let me see. I always have issues with that bloody Chrome getting it working so you can actually see it. No, not that one. Chrome, where is Chrome gone? No, that's not it either. Give me 1 second there now, guys, and I'm going to get this up there for you. Boom. Go back to this one, into the studio mode, into the Firefox. Let's see if it works now. Streamlab OBS. Anyhow, that's a bit of a bummer now, because that I wanted to show you this. No, it's not going up anyway, guys, so I'm just going to abandon trying to show you it. I was basically just going to show you the YouTube page, my own YouTube page, where it has the video hosted up there. The video is called 420 News Special, Sunday 31st of January, and it's a civil disobedience protest in Cork City to end cannabis prohibition. Bit of a long title there up on that video, but you'll find it through Martin's World, or Martin's World on YouTube. And when you're over there, guys, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So once you're on that page, you should be able to see a little subscribe button, and hit that subscribe. You'll be able to be notified of all my videos as they get uploaded, and yeah, you stay up to date on all the latest from Martin's World. Who's that? Fort Road, Massive. He says, just wondering why you didn't tell her that it was CBG at the time. I suppose because I was addressing the fact that in Irish law it says cannabis flower is illegal. And if you were listening to what I said to her, I said it was cannabis flower that I was in possession of. So that was the specific part of the law I was going at. So if you look at the 1977 Misuse of Drugs Act, it has in there definitions from the law, and cannabis herb, cannabis flower, that falls in there. And regardless of how much THC is in that cannabis flower, it's actually illegal anyway, as defined by Irish law. So that's what I was in there challenging yesterday. So that's why I didn't make mention of the fact that it contains CBG. That would just fly over the head of that guard. I wasn't there to educate that guard. I was there to take part in in democracy and engage in my rights as a person in this democracy to protest. And that's exactly what I did yesterday. And as I say, I wasn't there to educate that guard. She was a very nice guard. She didn't ask me any questions about cannabis or the health benefits or anything. If she did, I would have been quite happy to have answered them for her, but she didn't. She didn't ask me. She just wanted to know, is this cannabis flower? Yeah, happy days. That was a crime committed for her. She was happy to go and do her job then, as I expected of her, and I was quite happy with that. So do go over, check out that video, guys, if you haven't seen it already. I put it up on the Facebook page there as well earlier. And yeah, so on to other news, guys. Just as well, final reminder of this evening's event, Gino Kenny's event, 8 p.m. A case for ending cannabis prohibition in Ireland. I'm not too sure what the story is with the link there, but I think if you go to the Facebook page, he has like an event there, and you set a reminder on that event, and it'll come up then on your notifications through Facebook. So I think that's how he's running it. But look, keep an eye out if you don't have an account on Facebook, if you're exclusively on YouTube or Twitch. Keep an eye out later, because I'm going to set up a live stream, and I'm going to stream the whole thing through my own platform there as well. But definitely, if you're on Facebook, go to Gino Kenny's event. I don't want to steal his audience away at all by any means. So do go to Gino Kenny's Facebook page, set a reminder for that event, and you should be able to watch it there. But otherwise, keep an eye out for Martin's World later on, 8 o'clock, and we can interact with one another there anyway. So other news, guys, then. So yeah, there was my little pop-up actually for the Cork Civil Disobedience protest. So that's the thumbnail there that you'll find the YouTube video under. I forgot I actually had set this up. So guys, other news out there, it is that there was a new Garda unit set up in Limerick, and it was set up specifically to tackle the scourge of drugs in the towns and villages of Limerick. And actually, it's interesting enough then that the next couple of articles are coming out of Limerick off the back of this one, and it's like in no means meant to be that way. It's just how it happened. There was a lot of news coming from Limerick in relation to cannabis and drugs. But in this piece of news anyway, basically there's a new Garda drug unit being set up in Limerick to tackle drugs, and Bruff Superintendent John Ryan is tackling this amount of cannabis, cocaine and heroin, MDMA and benzodiazepine in his district head on, and that's because they captured 250,000 worth of cocaine and raheen just over a few weeks ago, and they've gotten a lot of seizures there in Limerick over the last while. In fairness, as I say, I have a couple of headlines there to cover from it. So it's funny enough that they do have a new drug unit going on up there. But just a shout out there to, who was it who corrected this headline, to Legalise Cannabis Ireland on Twitter. They actually corrected the headline as I should have read, and this is the correction for that headline. It's a new Garda unit to waste hard-earned taxpayers' money in a futile, destructive war against plant medicines and the innocent, non-violent patients who use it. That's a good correction of that headline there, because it is going to be a complete waste of taxpayers' money, because the war on drugs is lost. Drugs have won. I would probably go one further to say in a futile, destructive war against non-violent drug users. Because although cannabis is the focus of the show, all drug users, all prohibition of drugs, it's all nonsense, and it's all to the detriment of our society, really. When we weigh up the costs of it to our society, it just all needs to end, all criminalisation of drug users. And as I say, guys, in Limerick, sticking with it, other news coming out of Limerick, and it's a trusted storeman was jailed for hiding 3 kilos of cannabis and cash under his couch. And interesting enough there, like a trusted storeman, as it says, you know, so a guy who probably didn't come to the attention of the cops for whatever reason, and probably was respected within his community, I'd imagine. Kind of that's how I'm understanding trusted storeman here. But it's Patrick Burns, who is 40 and is a family man, and he's an address here in Limerick, and he pleaded guilty to possession of the drugs and money laundering charges relating to 2 seizures which were made just 6 months ago. And during a sentencing hearing, Detective Garda Declan O'Halloran of the Divisional Drugs Unit told the Limerick Circuit Court that nearly 3 kilos of cannabis was found hidden in a tyre in a shed at the rented property and that a sum of cash was found in vacuum packs underneath the couch in the sitting room. So I have a photo here for you, like, and it's funny enough, like it kind of brought back memories of going searching underneath the couch when a couple of coins would fall out of the pocket there late at night after coming home from delivering. You know, and you can see here, kind of to the bottom left of the photo, the 50s. Now, I've never found a sum of 50s under my couch like is seen here, but definitely I've found all of the other kind of nonsense that's under here, like toy guns from kids and stuff. As it says, he's a family man, but like it's just, I just thought that it was a funny one. It brought up some memories of ripping out the couches. Upon further examination, 4 packets containing cocaine and €18,000 in cash were discovered inside the couch. So they also found 4 packets of cocaine inside there. I don't really see them in the photo. But again, look, it's more reason why the war on drugs is an absolute failure. You know, you've upstanding people within communities here, you know, a trusted storeman, it says, and he gets caught up in all of this. Again, you know, it's you can't help it. You know, the guy was lured into it. Maybe he's a trusted storeman. Maybe his store was running into issues. You know, who knows? Maybe he was targeted because of his position within society. You know, a couple of known gangsters come down and say, "Here, come here, you're going to do this there for us." And your man was like, "Look, actually, I'm not going to argue with you." Look, you just don't know. You really don't know. Even in this case here, like it says that the man was worried about giving information as to the dealings because he was worried his family would be targeted in it. And, you know, it's no secret that criminals, snitches get stitches. So definitely, it's just more, for me, it's fuel to the fire to why prohibition needs to be ended. 3 kilos of cannabis, a pile of cocaine in a family man's house. You know, this shouldn't be there. The cocaine should be gotten through some sort of other regulated means, and the same with cannabis. It shouldn't be coming from family man's homes, hidden underneath their bloody couches, the same couches that their kids are probably sitting upon. Do you know, it's ridiculous. You know, you think about it, the danger that those kids are put upon because all of the drugs hidden in the house, all of the cash hidden in the house. Let's say a rival gang for whatever reason, you know, for stretching imagination, gets wind of it, and they target the house. They target the house while the kids are there, while the family are present. You know, this is prohibition in effect, guys. It needs to end. It really does need to end. And other news again, sticking with Limerick. 20 kilos of cannabis was seized in Limerick following an aggravated burglary. And this is following an attempted robbery at a premises where 2 people entered the premises with what's believed to be a knife. And this was at 7 a.m. And I don't think anybody was hurt in it. They threatened the occupant of the house. Cash and a number of items were taken. And after making some inquiries, there was a house search then in Mount Kennett Place, and a man in his 20s was arrested. And while searching the house, then Gardaí uncovered and seized cannabis with an estimated street value of 20,000, and some drug paraphernalia was also seized. The man was taken to Henry Street Garda Station in the city, where he's detained under Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act. So again here, guys, the lesson in this: if you're going to go out robbing, don't have a kilo of cannabis at home. But also, you know, it's more fuel to why prohibition needs to be ended. Like, why would you want to be buying your cannabis off of some scumbag burglar? And really, when it comes down to it, sometimes you don't have a choice, really. You can't be picky and choosy who you buy your cannabis off of. Sometimes you just put a shout out on Instagram, let's say, for example, boys, I'm stuck there, I'm in Limerick and I need a bag. And next along comes the scumbag burglar, do you know? And he think, but in fairness, no, actually, to defend this guy, maybe the guy who got raided and they found the cannabis, maybe it actually he just got unlucky and he got fingered as the burglar, and it had nothing to do with him. Again, like, but let's just say it was him and he did do the burglary, all right? He's a scumbag fucking dealer. So just, you know, just in case you're watching out there and it was you and you didn't do the robbery, I'm sorry, but just you did. You're a scumbag fucking burglar, and you deserve to go down for this. And the sad reality in this is that the guy is probably going to get more time for the cannabis than he is for the aggravated burglary, where he went in and tried to rob a premises with a knife. Like that's the sad reality here, is he'll get more time probably for that crime than he will for the real serious crime of the aggravated burglary, where he could have stabbed somebody, you know? The fact that he didn't stab somebody is probably why he'll get off with it. But it's ridiculous. Like, you know, so many reasons here why prohibition needs to be ended. For one, you don't want to be buying your cannabis off of a scumbag dealer. Two, you can't protect yourself from buying it off of a scumbag dealer if he comes and wants to rob you, you know, because this guy goes and robs places with knives. You know, you show up to buy an ounce off him for 300, 400, 500 euro, depending on what his price is. What's stopping him from pulling out the knife and robbing you there and then of your money and the cannabis he just sold you, you know? Come on, like, it it really needs to end. But that's the end of the stories from Limerick there, guys, and it's the end of the stories from Ireland. And before we leave Ireland, guys, just a final reminder: 8 p.m. Gino Kenny's event, a case for ending cannabis prohibition in Ireland. I just gave you a couple of reasons there as to why we should be doing it. Couple of comments coming in, guys, from me. Knowledge is power says decriminalisation is still on the discretion of the Garda and only on your first offence for an unknown small quantity. I imagine it will largely be used for profile as normal, perpetuating stigma. And that's interesting that you said that, because I'm going to cover a news story there later about Oregon, and Oregon have decriminalised all drug use. But still, within the headline, they talk about the fact that the police over there, they're still going to be carrying out the same amount of stops and searches for drug use or drug dealing. It's interesting, you know, but there's definitely an element of profiling that goes on there within it. But certainly the criminalisation, depending on what form it comes in, you know, discretion of the Garda. But if they take away the fact, like, if they don't put in like this kind of civil fine, unless you have over 2 ounces or something, I don't know what it might be, what form of decriminalisation it might look like. But it definitely does come in different shapes and forms. And then if you are above it, as you do say, that is to the discretion of the guards. Other comments coming in. Tom says the law for possession for personal use of drugs has changed slightly in that the Garda can caution you alone for personal use of an illegal drug, and possibly actually knowledge is power was replying to that. So again, guys, apologies there if I'm getting mixed up. I'm not seeing what's replies or not. Tom Hennessy also says, if the establishment wants to keep cannabis prohibited, why don't we bring back alcohol prohibition and further prohibit tobacco? You can't do that because that doesn't work. Prohibition doesn't work, and it doesn't. You're 100% right, Tom. It really doesn't work when it comes to it. Like, if we were to look at it, alcohol really fits all of the criteria for a Schedule 1 drug, and it's not there, unfortunately. But anyway, guys, thanks very much, everybody, for your comments there. Bono420 on Twitch, great stuff, nice one, guys. And Sean over on Facebook, he says, right to Martin, the less said by you, the less is used against you. That is certainly true. Guys, onwards with the news then. We shoot on over to the UK, where you see all these lovely cannabis plants, and these were recently seized by the police in the UK from Nottingham. This is coming out of Nottinghamshire, I believe it is, and it was over 200 cannabis plants were seized between 2 different properties there recently. And I don't know if you remember, but last week I only talked about the fact that in Nottingham again last week there was another like over 100,000 worth of cannabis plants seized there. So again, like, there seems that the police have been quite busy, and within these raids then they found in the properties that the people growing the cannabis had bypassed the electricity, again putting the neighbours at a significant fire risk according to the police. It says there, once the electrics had been bypassed, it posed a significant fire risk because of basically that the power would just keep going. It wouldn't trip as it should normally. And all of that stuff. So again, there is certainly a danger there, but again, the danger is only there because of prohibition, which forces people to grow cannabis in this kind of a manner. So really, this should be calling for the end of cannabis prohibition so people can grow cannabis more safely, and those who don't actually fucking really harshly punished for putting people in danger, let's say. But no, it doesn't. It actually ends with a call out to the community that if you have any concerns that somebody in your area might be growing cannabis next door to you and is putting you or your family at risk, please call our helpline on Rats Anonymous. Do you know what I mean? Fucking lot of bullshit. Like, really, if they wanted to keep the community safe, call for the government to end prohibition, you sausages. I just don't understand why they're not. But look, I'm not surprised that they don't. They're not allowed. They have to do their job. They can't speak out against the hand that feeds them. You know what I mean? The government, i.e. But sticking with the UK then, guys, and it is with the London Stock Exchange, and it is that a vaporizer firm gets the green light, pardon the pun, yay, to be the first medical cannabis firm listed in the London Stock Exchange. And this is Cannabo. And Cannabo, Kanabo for anybody interested. They're an Israeli vaporizer company, and they get the list in the UK because actually they bought some shell company, so they're kind of listing through that. Look, it's I don't really understand that technical aspect of it, but basically because they're an Israeli company, they can't list on the stock exchange unless they're based in the UK, so they bought some company anyway to do so. And in doing so now, their debut date is set for the 16th of February. And basically they're after securing over 6 million from investors. And it's after putting the value of the company now at 23.2 million. And I have a little photo here to show you guys of the Cannabo product. And it's called the Vape Pod. And it's after being created because the CEO of the company actually, his name is Avihu Tamer, and he's described the product as being something that his grandma could use. And he got into the industry after becoming one of the early recipients of medical cannabis in Israel. And he says he found himself sitting in a clinic with a nurse teaching him how to roll a cannabis cigarette. And Tamer said Cannabo's Vaporizer is an upgrade for patients and doctors because it delivers a precise 1 milligram dose with every inhalation, and it will appeal to users who typically prefer an act similar to smoking rather than ingesting pills. He added that the company would target the UK's market and believed that the patient's past difficulty in accessing cannabis despite legislation is dissipating. So he believes the doors are certainly opening up in the UK, and that there is opportunity there for his company to make a pile of money bringing this product to the market. Again, look, I don't want to be anti-capitalist or anything. People are entitled to make money, and I think it's great to see stuff like this coming to light. But again, it's a shame that there isn't more UK-based companies being able to get involved in this, because they really can't, because the bars are set so high. It's incredibly difficult to get access to the cannabis, to put a product to market. Like it's ridiculous what's involved in it. But obviously, if it's a medical product, then that's okay. But for a non-medical product, then look, there's no need to set the bar that high. So obviously, being a medical product, that's why they're able to list on the UK or the London Stock Exchange, because currently all of the recreational cannabis companies are prohibited from taking place on the London, or be listed on the London Stock Exchange. So well done to Cannabo. Do you know, it's great to see cannabis companies, medical cannabis companies as they describe themselves, making kind of mainstream places like the London Stock Exchange. It's great to see. It's a testament to how far cannabis has come and cannabis medicines. But there's still a lot of ground to be covered. You know, there's still flower prisoners out there, people in prison for growing cannabis for their own medical reasons. Or just for their own like recreational reasons, and they all need to be released. And I think it's a shame that like if a company like this, I hope maybe Tamer comes out and says, hey, we're going to put like fucking 5-10% of the company's profits every year back into fighting, the cause for social justice for cannabis prisoners. Then I'll be much more supportive of that kind of a company. But if they're just putting all the money into their own pockets, they're entitled to do it, but I just think it's poor behaviour, and it's not reflective of the community you're serving, and the community that's put a lot of effort to get cannabis to where it is today. Because let's not forget, cannabis would be nowhere today if it wasn't for the many activists, the grassroots people out there, the Rick Simpsons, and the many people like him before him. The Jack Herrers. Like there's so many people out there that have done their bit to get cannabis to where it is, and companies like themselves then to be listed now today. It's all off the back of that incredible work done by those people, and we still have a lot of work to be done. So in other news, guys, we're going to hop on a plane across the pond to Washington. Where in Washington State, not Washington DC, in Washington State, cannabis contributes $2 billion annually. It's just less than 2 billion actually, to be honest. It's like 1.6 billion in total. But that's according to a recent report there, which that's an incredible amount of money. The report is titled 2020 Contributions of Washington's Cannabis Sector. And it discovered that in 2020, the trade was accountable for $1.85 billion of gross state product and supported about 18,700 jobs. Whoa, I'm just going to repeat that. Cannabis in Washington State generated 1.85 billion of the gross state product, and it supports 18,700 jobs. That is incredible. An amount of jobs, and it's an incredible sum of money, because you know what, if cannabis was illegal, all of those jobs, I don't think there would be half as many of them, and all of that money then that was generated for the gross state product, all of that money would be in the black market. So well done, like Washington State, and it's a real benefit. Like legislators here, policymakers, guys, you're missing out, like, on what is a golden, like, it's a green goose egg. It's not a golden goose egg, it's a green goose egg, because it's fucking like, oh man, there's great opportunity out there for cannabis, but we're really getting, and I hate talking about that, because there's much more opportunity for undoing harms that have been done by fucking such flawed policy as prohibition of drugs. But the report additionally concluded that much more development is probably on the horizon, and the anticipated 2021 contributions to the Washington's GP, or gross state product, of the cannabis sector is going to be 2.13 billion, and that's going to continue to grow. And pardon the pun. So great stuff there to be reporting, you know. I wish we were reporting stuff like this from Ireland, but no, sadly we're not, you know. What we're reporting from Ireland is people going to guard stations and fucking handing themselves in with little bits of cannabis just so that they can highlight the need to end the silly prohibition, so we can bloody start making, you know, progress in our society, and stop going bloody backwards into the Stone Ages. Because in other places in America, you know, and more news in America, we're going back to Oregon, where today in Oregon, Ballot 110, which I reported on there earlier or later last year, which effectively decriminalised the personal possession of all drugs, including heroin, cocaine, and, you know, all drugs. Which is great, you know, but as I talked about there earlier, this isn't going to stop the police. They're still doing stops and searches, because the sale and supply of these drugs is still illegal. So within the article that I kind of was looking at there earlier, there was a cop there. It says that Newhard said officers may spend less time working with district attorneys as they won't have to discuss charges, and also the stops at the side of the road will be more like a traffic stop, and that people will be subject to $100 fine if they're caught with a personal amount of drugs, and they can waive that fine by attending a health screening. And so that is a bit of a balls, you know. The cops are still going to stop and search people, take their personal amount of drugs off them. That's what I'm gathering from this. Your drugs are still going to be taken from you. But look, it's $100 fine or a health screening, as opposed to having to go to court and deal with the district attorneys and all of that stuff. Like, so it is beneficial. It's really freeing up a lot of police time. As it's saying here, they don't have to go to court. The stops at the side of the roads are going to be a bit of a quicker kind of thing. But still, the cops said that they're not going to be reducing the police force. There's still going to be the same amount of police on the beat, and that they're going to be still carrying out the same stop and searches, but they're going to be targeting more drug dealers than drug users. So as I said there is going to be some element of profiling going on there to determine what's a drug user, drug dealer. But a lot of the times drug users are the drug dealers. So it's a bit of a messed up one still, you know, but it's good, you know. It is a step in the right direction now that they're not going to have to go to court, unless they don't pay their fine, I'd imagine. But look, it is a step in the right direction. Drug use is a health issue, not a criminal issue. Happy feckin' days. Well done, Oregon. Other news, guys, then, and it is another study coming out of America. and it is that opioid overdose deaths occur less in areas with cannabis retail stores. And as the number of retail stores in the area increases, the number of or the rate of opioid overdose deaths has decreased. And this is in relation specifically to fentanyl overdoses, which is interesting. This study was published in the British Medical Journal. Is it the British Medical Journal? I think that's what it is anyway, the BMJ. Prestigious enough medical journal there for it to be published within, but it's the title here is Association Between County Level Cannabis Dispensary Counts and Opioid Related Mortality Rates in the United States, and it was a panel data study. So within this there, the more legal cannabis dispensaries a region has, the fewer opioid deaths they suffered, according to the detailed study. And the most sharply reduced deaths were from fentanyl overdoses. In areas with legal storefronts, cannabis dispensary opioid death rates were an estimated 17% lower than average. In areas with 2 dispensaries, then there was an estimated 21% reduction in mortality rates. So there were some interesting findings there, So some of the reasons there for that is possibly people using cannabis as an alternative to some of the opioids for pain relief, because a lot of people don't realise that a lot of deaths to opioid overdoses are taking the required amount, the amount stated on the label, because some people, for whatever reason, they can just have sensitivity and overdose, even when taking the 2 tablets that the box tells you to take. So that is interesting, and it is very positive findings there as well. The conclusion of this particular study then, it goes on to say that higher medical and recreational storefront dispensary counts are associated with reduction opioid or related death rates, particularly deaths associated with synthetic opioids such as fentanyl. While the association's document cannot be assumed to be casual, they suggested a potential association between increased prevalence of medical and recreational cannabis dispensaries and reduced opioid-related mortality rates. This study highlights the importance of considering complex supply side of related drug markets and how this shapes opioid use and misuse. Certainly want to be considered again in Ireland, considering we definitely are losing grip of the drug problem here. Drugs are becoming more prevalent in our society. We've seen the rise now of crack cocaine in Irish society. So again, it's if we were to regulate and open up access to cannabis, and not address any of the other drugs, maybe, you could actually see a beneficial effect there. Less people going to these other drugs because maybe they're not going to the dealers who they were once going to before to get them from, who are selling them the cocaine. Maybe that's a good way to address that. Again, not to be stigmatic towards people who use cocaine. If you want to use cocaine and it doesn't impact upon your life negatively, by all means, go ahead. I don't have an issue with that. But look, if you're addicted to cocaine and if it's destroying your family life, work life, social life, all of that stuff, then I certainly do have a problem with that, and I would want to see society help you and not criminalise you. But again, if you had an alternative there, even alcohol, imagine what that would do to Irish society, where we have a major problem with alcohol, I think we would benefit greatly to having that alternative there to people. And guys, to finish up then, in the final bit of 420 news today, we're going to go to Canada. And in Canada, we have a Manitoba man who challenges the province's recreational cannabis growing laws. Because in Canada, basically, you're allowed to grow only 6 plants, I believe it is, you're allowed to grow within the province there. So this Manitoba man is continuing his fight to grow recreational cannabis, challenging the provincial government's ban on homegrown pot. So it seems actually that within their province there's a ban there on growing cannabis. So Jesse Lavoie, she's Lavoie, that's how he spells it, Lavoie. He filed 8 affidavits on Friday, 7 from experts and 1 from himself, addressing government concerns on keeping cannabis out of the hands of children and flooding the black market and protecting properties. And this is because in Manitoba, there's a ban there on growing cannabis in the home. And they make claims that it's for protecting children and to stop the flooding of cannabis in the black market and protecting properties. He goes on to say that combined there's over 150 years of cannabis reform and drug policy reform in these affidavits. And he said it's not just me against the Manitoba government anymore, it's me and a bunch of credibility. And Jesse was once a prison guard. And I have an old picture here of Jesse I'll throw up so you can see the man I'm talking about. So this is Jesse Manitoba. He's based in Jesse Manitoba. No, this is Jesse Lavoie, and he's based in Manitoba. And he was once a prison guard. And while he was a prison guard, he was violently attacked while on a night shift one night. And he was left in a situation where he was in a serious struggle for his life. Luckily, he survived the altercation, but the guy that he was in the struggle with, the prisoner, he didn't survive it. So that left Jesse with some physical and psychological injuries, and he decided then after this his life needed to take a new direction. And he started using cannabis, or maybe he was using it beforehand. Actually, it doesn't say he started using it, but he was using cannabis to treat his PTSD that developed as a result of that attack. And he went on then to get involved with a couple of cannabis companies, and he now works, or at least at the date of writing this article anyway, which was, he done an interview in November where he said he works for Canopy Growth since April 2019 as their North American key account manager for Starks and Bickle, and he's Canopy's Growth's new CBD products manager as well. So happy days there. He's after getting a good old job there for himself with Canopy Growth. And he's taking the Canadian government to task on what is basically discrimination against his rights to grow his own cannabis plants. He says that the current ban on cannabis grown in the home, it basically puts the cannabis consumer at a disadvantage because one, they're going to be down a load of money because now they can't be self-sufficient in providing their own cannabis if they would desire to. Two, the quality access, like to be able to grow your own cannabis at home provides, if you're good at it, better quality cannabis. So there's certainly disadvantages there within that province. So best of luck there to Jesse. I hope that they get in contact with him. I've certainly sent out an email there, and I'll see if I can find another avenue of contact with him to get him on the podcast to have a bit of a chat about this challenge, because it's a constitutional challenge that he's bringing to the Canadian government and against the Manitoba province as well. So best of luck there, Jesse, with that, and I hope to catch up with you in sometime in the not too distant future. So guys, that is all of today's 420 news. Thanks everybody for all your comments. I see a lot of comments coming in, and an amazing amount of them actually, fairness. So alright guys, hi to everybody out there anyway, because I see a lot of comments saying hi already. I'll try to give you a shout out as I get through them. But Ken Green says he finds it strange for a dude with 20,000 of cannabis at home to go out and risk aggravated burglary, probably a death by the victim or family member. A lot to risk, not defending him, but could just be a scumbag. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, it is a strange one to do, go out and rob somebody. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, all right. But definitely, as I say, you don't want to be buying your cannabis off this guy, because he's just a scumbag if it was him who went out and done the robbery. And knowledge is power is saying you're right, Tom. For cannabis personal possession, there has been generally a 3-strike rule or pay into the charity box, and the conviction wouldn't be applied. And I can back that one up there, as knowledge is power says. I got to pay the charity box 9 times, guys. 9 times I made a donation to the charity box here in Irish courts before I ever got a criminal conviction for personal cannabis possession. So certainly we've had some form of decriminalisation, I suppose. Like the fact you have to go to court, I suppose, isn't decriminalisation. But when you get into court, it's like, all right, pay the donation there to the charity box and we let you off. And that was kind of a thing, like, do you know what I mean? The revolving door system of the court, like the little scam that they have going on inside of there. It's all about like extorting money off of cannabis consumers. It's absolutely ridiculous. Knowledge is power says now decriminalisation applies to all drugs, given an adult caution on first offence and only a court appearance at the discretion of the Garda on repeated offences. 100%, yeah, all drugs now it applies to actually. Yeah, they did go on and extend that there the last day outside of cannabis, because again that was silly that they only looked at cannabis, all drugs. Like, come on, like I think the guys from the Tunaries, James Leonard, give him a shout out there. He said it best. Like, he goes, I could have got caught with drugs 3 times in the one day, and that would have been all these strikes gone. You know, like this de facto decriminalisation. It was of no benefit to the people addicted to drugs. People really just caught up in drug use. So certainly decriminalisation, it needs to be much more beneficial. It needs to go a lot further. Alama Snack Bar says grassroots pun there, I think. Tom Hennessy says, yeah, I heard there was a 3-strike rule, and I think that's replying to knowledge is power. So nice one there for guys. Nice a bit of interaction going on out there within the community as the show goes on. That's really great to see. Good stuff, guys. Fino Hunter says, Marty mate, what's growing on? Nice one, I love that. What's growing on? Yes, all is well anyway, man. Loving the puns. Alama Snack Bar says he had to go to court over 0.1 gram. Yeah, I've seen people up in court for like €2 worth of cannabis, guys. €2 worth. Like I seen somebody there on the live video said yesterday that they wouldn't even bring me to court because of the amount they went in with. Guys, they'll bring it to court for the smallest amount. Believe me, that's the smallest amount. I've been there, I've seen it. I've experienced it. Knowledge is power says the only fair way to deal with drug policy is to repeal the Misuse of Drugs Act across the board. No exceptions or discretion in any case of personal possession. I agree with you that the Misuse of Drugs Act is not fit for purpose. It needs to be brought to, like, it needs to be tested, like in the court of law. I think it violates our human rights, our constitutional rights, and I would love to fucking just have some legal experts there behind me to just give me guidance on this, to say, yeah, Martin, you're right, and this is how you can go about it, and we'll support you in it. So shout out to anybody out there in the legal field. I'm going to try to do something a bit more professional, outside, like following on from yesterday's little action. But certainly, if you're out there, if you're watching, if you know somebody, if you are this person, get in touch with me if you can help me in this, like furthering my understanding of challenging the Irish government to challenge the Misuse of Drugs Act using our constitutional rights. So if you're out there, guys, hear me out. Come seek me out. Drop me a message, drop me an email, anything at all. I want to hear from you. Curie says, community work for having cannabis, so stupid. It is, it's ridiculous. Like to go to court for cannabis, it's ridiculous. To have Gardaí target people for cannabis, it's ridiculous. To deny patients cannabis for medicine, ridiculous. So fucking stupid. Tom says, and that was his first time ever caught with personal use. So it was his first time getting caught with 0.1 grams of cannabis, and he had to go to court. Tipperary is very strict because the restorative justice in the communities. That's sad. That is ridiculous, actually. It's sad to hear. Curie says, Ireland is so backwards. It is indeed. Tom adds in, the restorative justice in the communities makes you do stupid programs if you're caught with a tiny amount of weed. They're in every town in Tipperary. It's toxic, and the Gardaí back them up. That's the first I've heard of them, actually, to be honest. I'll be interested to learn more. Seems like another scam. Alama Snack Bar, I'm from Cork, in the same shit here. Nice one, Alama, man. If you're ever about the place, I have to try to have a little meet and greet with all of the Cork community guys out there someday. A little smoke up at 4:20. Knowledge is power, he says. It is the duty of the government to allow access to cannabis to save lives, and I would agree with you there. It certainly is. I think when evidence is brought forth that the prohibition of cannabis is costing lives, I think they have to be held responsible to every life affected by that from that day forward. I think that evidence was brought forward a number of times to them, but they just seem to ignore it. Just going to grab a bit of lubrication there, guys. So we're closing in on the hour mark, actually. Happy days. Tom Hennessy says, I am old enough now. Limerick has turned that way as well. I think the brewery in Limerick has started that in Limerick as well for a small amount of cannabis. Is the brewery and those fucking Cumvera guys, man, they're scumbags. Scumbags at the highest order. Now, don't get me wrong, they do good work to help people. People kick drugs there and everything and what have you. But guys, they're judgmental. They're so judgmental. Their approach, fuck, jeez, man, it's extreme. It's extreme. That's all I'll say anyway. Tom Hennessy adds in there that the new slight change in the law with personal use with a caution with Gardaí is a lie though. You still don't get off free being caught with a personal amount for the first time. No, you don't get off free at all. You get your little caution, they still take your name and your details, and if they catch you again, you could get brought to court. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's all at their discretion. You might not even get left off the first time. It's not guaranteed to you. Fiona Hunter says, my brother-in-law has been on the methadone program for over 20 years, gets it free to him on a daily basis from the government, tax funded, and that's fucked up, I reckon. And knowledge is power, and I think he's replying to that. He says, heroin-assisted therapy is the approach in Switzerland with promising results. And I agree with knowledge is power there. I think if we can give people the methadone here in Ireland, and we have been for I don't know how many years, it's in a program running for a long time. Guys, if you don't know, methadone, it's just a chemical molecule that's not much different from heroin. It's just slightly different, but it's not much different. Why can't we just give them heroin? It's what they want. It's what they get in the street. It's what they go and they fuel the gangs to kind of carry on all of this nasty stuff within the drug trade across the world. Really, a heroin-assisted therapy, as Knowledge is Power pointed out here, it worked very well in Switzerland, and it will work very well in Ireland, along with a cannabis bloody regulated market. You put in a cannabis regulated market, you put in a heroin-assisted therapy, and maybe you open up a coca leaf tea cafe, let's say, for the people who like cocaine. I'm very troubled about how to regulate cocaine. Do you allow people to get access to free-base cocaine? I don't know. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody want to come on here and argue it? Come on, by all means. But definitely coca leaf. Had Dane Larson on the podcast, has a cannabis dispensary where he has coca leaf tea, and he says it's brilliant. People really like it. Cannabis or cocaine users really enjoy it. Is it an alternative to snorting cocaine? I don't know. But could it be? It certainly most definitely could be. So we certainly should be exploring these options. Heroin-assisted therapy, coca leaf tea therapy. I don't know, the prohibition, it just needs to end. Mass Use of Drugs Act needs to end. This fucking discrimination of drug users in a society needs to end. Alama Snackbar says, oh my god, look at that juicy bud. There was some fine buds there actually on those photos earlier. It's a fucking shame to think about all of the cannabis that's been destroyed over the years, and think about the amount of people that could have been benefited from accessing it. Man, what a shame. Imagine if we were to calculate it, all of the human hours that went into producing cannabis that then went on to get destroyed. Man, we probably could have cured cancer and diabetes and all sorts of diseases if those same man hours were put to productive uses. There was a lot of man hours been just completely gone to use therein. And if you were to combine then the man hours fighting the war on drugs, all of the guards, all of the judges, the solicitors, the prison officers. Oh, good Lord, the good things we could have done in this world. Guys, I'm going to have a quick hit off the bong. It's a little late, but I'm going to have a quick hit off the bong. We got another few minutes there before we roll on that hour mark. So blaze it up out there, guys, if you got it. Cheers, guys. Schleint that. I have my vaporizer here as well beside me. I should have really just turned that on and been talking it away throughout the show, but I have to refill it with gas. Such a lazy fucking stoner. Other comments, guys, before we close out the show. Cannabis-assisted therapy definitely could be an effective substitute for other drugs, including opioids, and that comes in from Knowledge is Power. And that certainly has been the case, shown to be the case in Canada, where there's been cannabis-assisted therapies there now for quite a while, where people coming off of harder drugs like heroin and things like that, they can go through the withdrawal stage within this kind of cannabis retreat. And it seemed really cool, you know what I mean? It seemed like a really cool way in which a person could kind of come off of harder drugs and reduce the symptoms of the withdrawal effects of those harder drugs. Excuse me. Certainly to be looked at anyway. Sean says he enjoyed the show. Keep up the good work. Nice one, Sean. Glad you enjoyed the show. Tom Hennessy said this retired cop's name is Peter Christ. Everyone watch this. It's one of the best videos that explains how prohibition fails. Sorry, I left I left so many comments. No, you're all good, Tom, man. All good, Tom. Delighted to see so many comments. I'm glad to see so much interaction in the show, guys. Interact by all means. It's great to see. I can only apologise afterwards if I don't get to read them all. But definitely don't feel like you're spamming the show with comments at all. But dude, guys, check out Peter Christ. As Tom says, he's a retired cop, and he talks about how prohibition fails. And Teresa says, great show, Martin. Missed the first 10 minutes, but we'll watch afterwards. Thanks for that, Teresa, and always a pleasure to have you on the show. Greenbeard says, I've been up for €10 worth and €250 fine to the paupers box. Fucking joke. But at least you got no conviction anyway. And nice one for tuning in, Greenbeard. It's always a pleasure to have yourself on the show. Guys, check out the High on Homegrown podcast if you haven't already. A great team over there doing some really good entertainment. Probably one of the best stoners podcasts out there, where they just have a really good entertainment vibe, much in line with the cannabis culture and the stoner vibes. So check them out, High on Homegrown, over on YouTube, and the Percy's Growing Them then as well for the forum. Ken Green says, a few years back, a friend of his got done for an empty baggie. Man, I got pulled in one night and the cops found an empty baggie, and then they got me out of the car and searched the floor of the car and put some crumbs of cannabis into the empty baggie and said, no, you've enough. I got put off the road for a year for that. And it was an empty bag that started with. The search was 4 o'clock in the morning because I was after finishing Donatello's, delivering pizzas. And I was, after hanging out with the lads, I was after smoking, fairness. Was I too high to drive? No. Was I impaired? No. Would I have passed the driving test? 100%. Was my ability to drive? Guys, the laws around smoking and driving, they're discriminatory. They're not based on any real hard evidence at all. So that's just discrimination. Yeah. Anyhow, do I condone smoking and driving for everybody? No, I certainly do not. Did I do it before? I did. I certainly did. Did I ever crash smoking and driving? No, I did not. Yeah. 4 Road Massive, he says, I have at least 200 CBD seeds, and I was thinking if I could send them out to some people in every county and they could plant them at home for a few weeks. Then we go plant them around in flower pots locally in April 420. Yeah, guys, get out there, go to your local hemp food or health food store and buy some hemp seeds. They're cheap, they're inexpensive, and they will germinate. You will be able to grow them and plant them out around the place. Grow a few home in your windowsill, get it up to be a nice little height, and then just go place them around the place. Certainly, let's overgrow the government. Campaign of civil disobedience. I can certainly get behind all movements like this, so very good idea, Fort Road. Get those seeds out there to people, get germinating, guys, and overgrow the government. Greenberry says Percy's Grow Room will be doing a green planting across Ireland this year along nature trails, park flower beds within the cities, over 1,000 seeds in total. That's great to hear. I hope to join that campaign. I'll do my part anyway, that's for sure. Great minds think alike. So guys, that looks like to be all the comments. I love the podcast coming in there from Keith. They were lovely plants coming in from Teresa, and a little sad face there as well because those plants were destroyed. It is sad. Analogous Power says a lot has changed in the last decade since Ming's bill, and a lot has changed, most certainly. A lot has changed, but a lot still has to change, and let's hope positive things to come for Gino's bill and it doesn't see the same fate as Ming's bill. Other comments coming in. Tom says you can get drugs in prisons. If you can't keep drugs out of the prisons, how can you be delusional enough to think you can keep drugs out of a free society? You can't. It is delusional. It really is. other comments coming in. I look forward to seeing you there, brah. And that's tonight's speech, our talk from People Before Profit. That's coming in from Greenbird. Kevin Doyle says, had a local cop used to pull fellas, and he would wrap double-sided sellotape onto his 2 fingers, and he'd wedge that into your nodge pocket, and he would do you if there was crumbs on the tape. What? No fucking way. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Man, no, I've heard it all. That's ridiculous. So sellotape on the top of his fingers into your pocket, and if cannabis got stuck to the sellotape, he would do you. Man, that is crazy. Fuck me. I wonder, is he still a cop? Jack Chrism, he says, is Gino on TV or can we watch it anywhere? Yeah, I think you can watch it over on Facebook, but look, if you can't find a link, if you're having trouble finding it later, just go to Martin's World. If I have found it, I'm going to stream it. And Mistawa says, we need that leaf symbol on our license if you passed while high. Yeah, I think that's a good one. Yeah, I actually did do my driving test while high. I did my driving test while high that morning. So I should qualify for it. But yeah, that'd be a good one actually. A cannabis leaf on your driver license. Yeah, just handing that to the cop. I'm certified to drive high. Greenbird says, Martin, I already had you down to be the Cork planter, bro. That's the job. Happy days, man. Glad you know me well anyway. I just hadn't been told yet. Note the whole drug squad was disbanded. Oh, that's good to hear anyway. That's good to hear. So guys, thanks very much for everybody who's out there and interacted with the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring you the first 420 news of February. Happy St. Bridget's Day to everybody out there who partakes in such a festival. Guys, it's been a pleasure. If you want to support the show, don't forget martinsworld.ie, bitcoins, patreon.com/martinsworld. And stay